Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about business automation, all the structured processes and systems that you use to create the very fabric of how your business runs. And by putting your business process into a structure, you can then create systems. You can then create automations and things that hang off certain elements. For example, when this happens, automatically do that, or send an email, create a task, whatever it happens to be. But if you don't have a system, you really need one. Otherwise, you're going to be the person that ends up doing everything. So the first way to start with systems is really just create a dot point list. First I do this, then I do this, then I do this. Start with the customers you already have. Start with the relationships that are working really well. All the businesses that you're working with, all the customers that had a great time, that really understood what you do, that just really got it. And then start reverse engineering, right? They're a closed one customer. What happened before that? What happened before that? What happened before that? And it just gives you flexibility. Yeah, you could go all fancy with wireframe diagrams, but then people get stuck on what diagram should I use? What layer? How do I link things? If I move this, then I have to move all these other things. Forget it. Just start with a dot point list. So much simpler. You can get in front of it. You can put something underneath it. You can, restructure and reorganize very, very simply. Just cut, paste, and you're done. So start with writing it down. Now you have to be aware that over time, your business process will change. So you need to build it in such a way that it becomes modular. This then allows you to change parts of it, bolt stuff on, remove stuff, and over time it can evolve with your process. Ideally, if you put it into a system with a structure, that way you can add things, you can remove things, you can test, you can get the data, but you can't do that if you don't have it written down. You need a starting point, and you don't want to go changing every little bit, every little second, because then you might change something over here and something over there, and then your sales don't change, but maybe they counteract each other. Maybe one thing made you grow and the other one made you shrink, and by their powers combined, everything's the same. So you'll just go, well, neither of those worked, and I'm just going to delete both of them. So test one thing at a time, otherwise you're just not going to get the analytics and the data and the evidence out to say that modification was actually really good for us. Now, a business is a system of systems. It's like a car. You've got your radiator system that's like your cooling for the engine. You've got your engine system. You've got your gearbox and drivetrain. Then you've got your air conditioning system, your electrical system, and all of these things work together to make the car go. Now, over time, you can upgrade various things, but then upgrade in one area then means you have to change something in another area. So if you put a exhaust on, now you can extract the fumes out better. And so that means that, well, maybe we could get more fuel and air into the engine. And maybe you make the engine go faster, and that's great. But now you need to actually be able to stop the thing to get around the corners. So now you have to upgrade the brakes. Then once you've upgraded the engine and the brakes, you might have to upgrade the wheels because they're starting to get a bit wobbly. They're not built for certain high speeds or stopping really fast. And so everything has a knock-on effect. And having a system and being able to test these things means that you can actually make these upgrades and improvements progressively and in a structured way rather than just guessing. But if you're going to build a car, you have to know that you want to build a car. If you want to build a rocket ship, you have to know you want to build a rocket ship. And so you can't really cross those two things over, and you need to have the goal of what the end outcome you're seeking is so that you can build towards that. Now, your business systems can happen in a number of ways. This might be the documentation that you have on how to run things. It might be templates that you have in your marketing materials. It might be the CRM and then the project management system and then the billing system. And all of those things would map together to create the customer journey. The sooner you can pull those things together and ideally build it on somewhat of a unified platform, then the sooner you can actually make some significant growth happen in your business. Instead of, having all these isolated tools, you've bought the app for this and the app for that and the app for something else and the app for something else. And yeah, this one's cheaper than that one. But then if you zoom out and look at it all, you've got 50 things running in your business, none of them really talking to each other. So then you end up having to go down the path of integration and using middleware tools to get that thing talking to this thing, but then it doesn't share the information in the same way. And then of course now you've got issues because you've got to pay for the integration costs and so on and so on. So if you have a digital strategy, if you have a plan for how your systems will evolve with your business, then you're going to actually end up with something that you can grow into, rather than it just being something that you bought an app for that and then another app for that, and it just becomes this hodgepodge system that causes more problems than it solves. But the first thing you should do before you identify what systems you need is figure out what your business needs to do and choose your systems based on that, rather than trying to mold your business to fit a particular system. Now, as your business grows, your systems will emerge. What I mean by that is that you'll start a process probably very manually. It may not warrant spending a lot of money building a system for something that you're only going to do once a month, once a week, something like that. But as your business grows and the volume of work that is involved in doing that one thing, as it grows, you then need to create a system to structure it, automate it, delegate it, whatever. So if it's not enough of a pain for you to solve right now, then you can kick it down the road by all means. And sometimes doing it the manual way can really help you find what are the elements that make this task good and what are the elements that make it really bad. So that if you have to make a custom system or process to solve that issue, that you really understand the mechanics of the problem. If, however, you get sold on some product that says it does all these things, but then really it just lightly provides a little bit of structure, but doesn't actually improve the way it's done, then you spend more time implementing and dealing with some process or system that doesn't really solve the problem effectively, or doesn't delegate it, or doesn't give you the data, or it doesn't connect. And so you don't want to spend so much time on the problem itself. You want to spend the time doing the task and getting it off your plate, or automating the thing, or handing it off. So that's where the value is, not in the process of finding the process, if that makes sense. Now, as your business scales and you have more and more team members, at a certain point, what you thought you had to do now changes because you have to involve other people. So you might write the process the way you do it, but then you might have somebody else that needs to, you might have to add something as simple as an approval step. You don't need to do an approval step if you're doing it, but you now need to add an approval step if somebody else is doing it, because you want to be able to check. And then as your business grows, you now need to delegate approval steps. So you might have one level of manager that can do things up to a certain level, and then another level of manager that has to approve beyond that. And another thing to consider is that your employees don't always have the same experience as you, or you might want to delegate it down to the lowest level. Companies like McDonald's spend a lot of time really simplifying tasks and structuring it in such a way that they can get a 16-year-old fresh out of school into their first job and still be able to run the process. If you walk into a McDonald's, most of them are run by 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And that includes the managers and the supervisors. So it's really, really effective to build systems and structures, because you can delegate that down to a lower cost wage, for example. And sometimes you need that reflective feedback. You need to get the people who are doing the job to tell you, I'm stuck here. I don't know what to do when I get to this point. So getting their feedback is critical in building a system. The other thing I would say is build training into the system. If you are collecting a bit of information, sometimes you can create a field in a software or a form or something, and you just have a description of what it is that you're trying to get out of that field, or where it goes, or why it's important. That might increase the likelihood that someone completes the field, but also might increase the likelihood that people collect the information in the right way. So a little tooltip, or a little bit of a description, or a pre-filled value, or a defined set of values reduces the risk that they're just going to not understand it at all and then not answer the question. Or in some cases, completely sidestep the process and do their own thing. Whilst you can design a great process, if you don't have good process adoption, then the process you design is almost useless. So you need to get the people along for the ride. That might include doing training. It might include building courses. It might include, making sure that the culture is right, and so that people understand the value of the process. If it doesn't seem logical, they might say, well, why do I do this? And you might say, well, we've learned over 1,000 customers and 10 years of doing this, that if we do this one thing at the start, it saves a lot of heartache down the line. Whereas if the employee is coming in for the first time and they don't understand that history, that analytics, the data, the smarts that are behind doing this one thing, then they're probably just going to go, oh, well, that's redundant, I don't need that, and sidestep it. You also need to create a system for your teams to create systems. Now, what I mean by that is an innovation pipeline, a structured process where you collect ideas, you review them all, and then you take the best ones and you implement them. And then ideally, you want to encourage repeat behavior in your organization. So you could provide an award. Maybe this thing was implemented. Great. Here's a $100 gift voucher for whatever place. Things like that really help to drive people to be creative, to come up with new ideas, and to be excited about where the company is going, particularly if that implementation of that particular idea that one person had has an enormous impact on the rest of the company. I remember reading something in the Army newspaper where there was a competition for innovation, and one vehicle mechanic came up with a metal bracket which cost about $12 to make, stopped the vibration of these two cables that would run into the engine and would constantly be splitting and breaking and would need replacement. So they actually saved the military $600,000 in annual replacement costs for these cables across a whole fleet of vehicles, all for the cost of about $6,000 worth of production for these little brackets to then be retrofitted to all of the vehicles. That kind of innovation is really, really powerful. A small change made a massive financial difference, purely because they have the size and the scale for that to be an issue or to be resolved with that particular kind of application of this. However, if you're not leaving space for your teams to be innovative, to come up with ideas, then you're never going to solve the problems of the world, and you're just going to go along doing the same things, wondering why other people are going faster. Another thing about systems is the ability for departments to share information. So if you've got the system, or if you've got your everyday process baked into a system, then different departments can look at what's going on with the customer. For example, the operations team can quickly just tag someone in the finance department to say, hey, we're done with this project. And then the finance department can look at the history, see what was done, see what needs to be invoiced, and then just raise it, and then notify back the other way to say, invoice raised, the client's paid, continue on with the work, or whatever it is that your process is. But by having those department views, it doesn't mean that it has to be like an email and then wait for a day and then get the information back and then make a decision, which just slows everything down. And so you create this noise clutter, this conversational noise that happens in emails, which you could easily reduce by putting people into a chat forum. But then chats get messy, which you can easily reduce by putting into a structured system with statuses and progresses. And then you just move people down this pipeline and everything gets done. When they get to this phase, the invoice goes out. When they get to that phase, the project gets created. When they get to another phase, maybe the next invoice goes out, or they get a thank you note, or something gets sent to the customer. Whatever the process is, by having a structure, you can build upon it, start with a good foundation, and just add layer upon layer upon layer. And as your business scales, now you've got the ability to handle high volumes of information without any massive change in your systems or processes. The idea of having good systems, and the reason why you should invest in good systems, is because if you've got 5 staff today and 10 staff in 6 months' time because things are going really well, that's fine and dandy. You can manage that as an individual. But then once you get past about 10 to 15 staff, now you have to have supervisors and manage through other people, and you can't see everything that's going on, but you can kind of still interact with those managers, team leaders. You can ask questions. You are delegating and relying on those other people. Now, when you get to 25, 30, 40, 50 staff, you're forgetting names. You haven't been able to speak to everybody when they first start. You're relying heavily on the data. And if you don't have that data available, then you're kind of just guessing, or you're putting your finger in the wind and deciding this is the course of action today. But with the data, you'll be able to find out where the customers are at, where your employees are at, where your suppliers are at, who's at risk, what are the bottlenecks in the company. And you can use that to enable your teams to be able to report back to you better. So instead of telling your team leaders and supervisors and managers, I need this information, and then have them being frustrated because they've got to manually collect it in spreadsheets or ask a whole bunch of questions and collate it for you and then hand it to you. No, now what you get to do is either create a dashboard with instant insights into all of the information and questions that you have, and then the managers get to give some contextual information on top of that. Or you make it easy for them to find and collate. So they just grab this number, this number, this number, put it on a page and hand it to you. And that provides value. There's trust now up the chain and down the chain. You know that your teams know what they're doing. They know that they can report back to you, and it's not going to be an angsty sort of frustrating time to be able to communicate with you, the manager, because, well, we've just removed ambiguity and doubt. We've taken all of these "are you doing your job" questions out because the system is doing its job and the managers are just facilitating the system. Now, one thing that allows you, the owner, to stay in control is that in your systems, you can build rules. Now, yes, sometimes rules can be sidestepped or broken or, made an exception for, etc. However, if you build a structure into the system with certain decision rules and criteria and things like that, now you've kind of set the way that you do business, so you don't have to go and explain it all the time. So you might say, here's the product, and you can only give a maximum of a 20% discount. And maybe you say the salesperson has the discretion to give a 5% discount. The manager has a discretion to give a 10% discount. If you're going to give a 20% discount, it has to come to you, the owner. And those sorts of controls help to allow your teams to make decisions on the ground without constantly coming to you for everything, but you've still got some limits or some guardrails to stop people going in completely the wrong direction. And of course, business automation is to get the business to work without you. So thank you very much for watching today. If you've enjoyed it, please let us know, give us a like and a subscribe. So ultimately, the goal is to build a system that works without you. Thank you for watching. Please keep an eye out for the next lesson.